What is good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Nerd Corner. I'm Notice Sasako, the one who never knows best. And in today's video, I'm back with my Chapter 4 review of Samurai 8, The Tale of Hachimaru, the latest and greatest from Masashi Kishimoto. But I have a nitpick with this series, and no, check me out. I'm half joking, but I'm half serious. Like, we 4 chapters deep, and I don't think I've seen a single girl in this series yet. Now, it's up in the air about whether or not Nanashi's a girl, which we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But man, listen, I just read, well, not just now, but last night I read the first chapter of Tokyo Shinobi Squad, and I'm not gonna lie, bro, it's pretty good, and it's kind of like Samurai 8, but like even a little more interesting if I'm honest. And I mean, I was just reading through the pages, and like you get through some of that, and then like you meet Papilla in it. Where's my Papilla in the Samurai 8, bro? Where's that? Nah, but all jokes aside, Tokyo Shinobi Squad looks like it's gonna be a pretty dope series as well. If you haven't checked that out already, go look it up. It's pretty cool. But Samurai 8, let's talk about it. So this chapter starts off with Hachimaru and Hayataro soaring through the sky, making their return home after just leaving Nanashi and the dojo. But something I want to talk about in regards to Nanashi is I want to bring up his, or maybe her, gender again. I'm not really one to, you know, concern myself too much with somebody's gender, but I feel like it's kind of an ambiguous point intentionally so far in the story, because if you remember last week in the chapter, right, after Nanashi and Hachimaru took down the 3 pigs and sliced their tank in half, Nanashi said something along the lines of, I don't want to cut a tank with you, I want to cut a cake with you. Now, if you also remember the chapter before that, when we met Nanashi and he was talking to himself via his left and right hands, one of his hands referred to him as a guy and the other one said he was a girl, and it still hasn't really been made clear which one Nanashi is, and even from Nanashi's looks, like, it's kind of hard to tell. And I've been referring to him as a guy. I guess that's just me assuming in 2019, probably the biggest mistake you can make, but it's still kind of up in the air. And so I had some people say to me that maybe it was a reference to cutting a wedding cake, which I did initially think when I read it, but I don't know, I guess I just kind of immediately wrote it off and didn't really think too deeply about it. But maybe that's what it is. Maybe Nanashi actually is a girl, and that was somewhat of a foreshadow about Nanashi having feelings for Hachimaru all of a sudden, or wanting to marry him somewhere down the line after, you know, he or she becomes strong. Like, it's kind of difficult for me to talk about, but whoops, bumped my mic. But that's, you know what I'm saying, yeah, like, is Nanashi a man or a woman? And if Nanashi is a woman, or maybe a man, either way, like, just because, I mean, hey, listen, like I said, it's 2019. You can be whatever you want. You can love whoever you want. You know what I'm saying? I ain't here to hate or discriminate. I support it. But Nanashi very well might be a guy or girl. But either way, was the whole cutting a cake thing him foreshadowing, or her foreshadowing, that she wants to, or he wants to marry Hachimaru? Is that what that was about? Was he talking about a wedding cake, or was she talking about a wedding cake? Just for the sake of the videos and just for just to make it easier on myself, I'm either going to refer to Nanashi as Nanashi or probably as a he. I'm going to default to as he. I don't mean to offend anybody with that, but it's going to make things very complicated and difficult to talk about when it comes to Nanashi if I'm constantly jumping back and forth between he or she or they, them, it. Like, I don't listen, I'm not too well versed in the world of pronouns, okay? I'm not sure what the best way to go about it is, but for now we're just going to say Nanashi, and if I say he, just realize that's not me trying to, you know what I'm saying, let's not look too deep into that. Anywho, moving on with things that actually happened in this chapter, Hachimaru and Hayataro are on their way home, and we see that Daruma and Hachimaru's father are engaged in a conversation to where they are both trying to figure out who each other actually are, because they are not quite who they seem on the surface. Now, to me, it kind of went without saying that Daruma was the lone wolf, the samurai that we saw in chapter 1, and that he's now trapped in like this cat body. For what reason, we don't know. How he ended up that way is beyond me, but Daruma is the lone wolf, and that is revealed to us in this chapter. We still don't really know who Hachimaru's father is, but he is apparently more than meets the eye, because he knows more than he probably should, as Daruma is explaining certain things and questioning him, and his reactions just aren't what they should be or would be if he was somebody that didn't know more than he's leading us to believe. Oh, by the way, did I mention that Hayataro still meows like a cat? Yeah, just throwing that out there. Anyway, so it turns out that Daruma's on this quest to find the 7 keys to unlock this box to basically save the entire world. Now, these 7 keys are going to be 7 different samurai, and apparently Hachimaru is one of those 7 samurai. Hachimaru being one of the 7 keys, he's our main character. That's to be expected, right? But what's interesting to note is that Daruma's been searching for 50 years for these 7 keys, and he has never found any of them until he met Hachimaru. So Hachimaru is the first key in 50 years that he has found. Now you would think, okay, if you only found one in 50 years, how long is it going to take for him to find the others? But this is a manga, you understand, and not to mention that they are dwelling on this idea that Hachimaru has this strong gravitational pull. So I think it's safe to assume that, one, because this is a manga and the story has to progress, and that is obviously the end goal, is to collect these 7 keys and save the world and whatnot, and due to Hachimaru's gravitational pull, we're probably going to meet these other keys far sooner than it took Daruma previously, right? So I mean, in terms of real life, it's probably going to take us several years, maybe 2 or 3, 4 years, I don't know, it depends on how long the series is going to go on for until we finally meet all of them. But in the context of the story, it might take a year or 2 before we actually meet the other 6 keys. Now, when it comes to these 7 keys, and even just samurai in general, it's very obvious that Hachimaru's father knows a lot more about these types of things than he probably should, or at least more than I and maybe you would have expected. And this is also evidenced by the fact that he's being extremely overprotective of Nanashi. He's talking about how dangerous it is and how he shouldn't be leaving, you know, from just outside of the house and so on and so forth. And then Hachimaru actually swoops in later on, you know, he lands with Hayataro and it's like, yo, dad, check me out. Like, Hayataro can turn into an airplane. It's so cool. And he's like, yo, can I go for a walk this way this time? And his dad's like, no, absolutely not. You were just supposed to go for a walk. You're not allowed to leave from outside the house. And it turns into this whole big argument between Hachimaru and Hayataro. And this would only make sense for him to be acting this way. I mean, it's not uncommon, right, for people to have overprotective parents, but I feel like the reasoning behind Hachimaru's father being this overprotective is because he knows of the dangers and the truths and all these secrets that we haven't really been revealed, or that haven't really been revealed yet. He knows what Hachimaru would be getting himself into if he went along with Daruma and got himself involved with samurai and trying to save the world and these 7 keys. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. But it's interesting how curious I am about Hachimaru's father, because he doesn't seem like a particularly interesting character at first, but it's just because he knows so much. I'm just like, how much are you really holding back? So he then gets into this big argument with Hachimaru, and Hachimaru goes, dad, I'm not the same skinny little toothpick that I was before. You don't have to be so overprotective. Like, I'm a samurai now. Like, I can take care of myself. Like, it's gonna be alright. Like, I'm gonna be straight. But his dad ain't really trying to hear none of that. But of course, as Hachimaru is our main character and the story does have to progress, we already know how this is going to go, and we get to see that towards the end of this chapter. Hachimaru is going to disobey whatever his father tells him. He's going to do whatever his heart truly wants to do. He's going to sail off on this adventure, not sail off, but he's going to go off on this adventure, explore the world, save the world, etc., etc. Like, whatever his dad's intentions are, I'm sure he has his son's best interest at heart, but at the end of the day, Hachimaru going to do what Hachimaru going to do. He the main character, so he not just going to stay at home. This much we know for a fact. And then we proceed to see that Daruma, who by the way was, I guess, pretending to be asleep during the argument, yeah, I guess he was pretending to be asleep, but Daruma actually like wakes up, I guess, and he speaks to Hachimaru. He's like, you know, a samurai chooses his own fate. And then he proceeds to ask Hachimaru to pick a number, like, what's your favorite number? And Hachimaru's like, well, I guess since my name is Hachi, 8, why not, right? Okay. And then Daruma takes a sword and he slashes through the air, right? And he starts counting the 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then exactly 8 seconds after he swung his sword, like a gash appears in the ground. It's like, that was kind of sick. That was kind of tight. Well, how you do that right there? Now, apparently this is a technique known as a silent slash, and this was just to reiterate Daruma's earlier statement about how a samurai decides everything for himself, including, I guess, the amount of time before your sword swing actually slashes through somebody or something, which is pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. Daruma then proceeds to present Hachimaru with a bit of an ultimatum, and he says, you know, if you step over that line, then I will train you in the ways of Kongo Yasha, which is the sword style that Daruma is experienced and skilled in. And he's like, yeah, step over that line, you'll become a samurai, I'll train you in this sword style, we'll travel the world, save the world, whatever. But if you choose to stay over there, then fine, live happily in peace with your father. And then with almost no hesitation, obviously, Hachimaru was like, I'm trying to be a samurai, what's good, let's get it, let's bounce, I'm out. And that's where the chapter ends. So I can only assume that the next couple of chapters are going to be Hachimaru actually training, learning the ways of the Kongo Yasha sword style, and, you know, getting some experience under Master Daruma before they set off on this grand adventure that is inevitably going to be them trying to save the world. From what exactly, other than total annihilation, obliteration? I'm not really sure. Somebody's got to be behind it though, right? So we'll get there when we get there. I gotta say, 4 chapters in, the story doesn't seem to be the fastest paced story, but it's enjoyable enough. Although, admittedly, after reading Tokyo Shinobi Squad yesterday, I've got to say it seems like it has a similar enough concept where you have ninja in this futuristic setting and they're trying to save the world, or at least save Tokyo or whatever. And it's kind of a little more exciting. It's a little more interesting. I'm not even gonna front on that aspect. So in comparison, I gotta say that this is a slower pace, but again, as someone who was such a big Naruto fan fan, as somebody who has so much respect for Kishimoto, I'm really interested in seeing where the story goes and how the characters develop. But again, half joking, half serious, where the girls at, man? Where the waifus at? You know what I'm saying? Where the female sensei? You know what I'm saying? Where come on, man, throw me a bone. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's alright, not spectacular. I'm even questioning if I should start waiting a little bit and not reviewing these weekly. And again, it's only 4 chapters in, so I'll probably still do the 5th chapter next week. But I'm wondering if I should let these chapters build up before I start reviewing them, or maybe only come back for reviews when something like really dope or really hype happens. I'm not sure. You guys let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But yeah, like I said, okay chapter, not spectacular. Hit this video with a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already, so you can stay tuned for all this content I'm trying to bring you. And with all that being said, sprint up today. And remember, nothing can happen to you swing the bat. Later.